Hi, you guys. Welcome back to Coach Peggy Real Time, where we are talking about real people with real problems and real solutions. So what were Faith and Troy and Rita up to last week? They were discussing their habits. How do they attack habits? Do they crawl? Do they walk? Do they run? It makes a difference in how you approach those habits on whether you're going to have long-term success. What? Yes, it does. This week, they were filling out forms to look back at their family in regards to nutrition and exercise. What habits might they have brought forward unintentionally that they watched, healthy or unhealthy, that we can get rid of or rewire or come up with some new habits? That's what they're looking at. They also assigned exercise commitments to each other. That's going to be fun to see how they're doing. And they headed off to audit and organize their bedrooms. So I can't wait to see how that is all going. And the most important thing, we've really been talking about their nutrition this week, their calories and their macronutrients. Do they have a right balance, a correct balance for proteins, carbs, and fats based on their goals? I cannot wait to see how they're doing. So let's get started. Let's see how Catwoman, Wonder Woman, and Rocky are doing this week. Oh my gosh, you guys, welcome back to this week. Coach Peggy, real time, real people with real problems. But you're finding your own real solutions because remember when I told you it was about self-discovery and I told you that somebody in season 1 thought I was going to tell everybody what to do? Self-discovery is tough, isn't it? It really is. You got to dig deep and get rid of those excuses, especially when we have each of us looking for excuses. Oh, I'm looking for excuses with you guys too. There's a few of them, Troy, but just
I knew where you were going with that too. I knew exactly who you were talking to.
You're getting so good. I'm not as sneaky as I used to be. Hey, I have them too. And that's part of our history habit, is just digging that stuff up, because that's what kind of we've always done. But you guys, I'm so proud of you. You're doing such a good job. You're still embracing this. Typically I just want to give you a heads up, about the 3-4 week mark-ish, the honeymoon phase dips a little bit, right? Kind of like every relationship. After about 21 days, you're like, hey, cutie, just peace out. So but you guys are you're keeping the momentum. You're still doing the stuff. You're still checking in with each other. Nobody's ghosting at this point in time, which pretty much means avoiding, each other or anything like that. So I'm really proud of you guys. And we're going into week 4. So it's kind of fast-ish, don't you think? Probably doesn't feel like it when I'm doing all this bullshit work.
Sure.
And you should start to really see some of those red flags that are falling out that your body's telling you, or when you want to quit, or some of those things. We should start to be able to dissect some things through your wellness logs, which we're going to talk about a little bit more, because you're tracking so much data. So hopefully you're learning a few more of those things. Obviously, it's about organization and planning. If you don't, have a plan to fail to have a plan to fail, that shit. So leading right into what we chatted about last week with organization, you guys dove into your kitchens for the last time, but don't be surprised if I make you go back in a couple of weeks and take a photo to make sure your shit's still organized. All right, so we're done. We're kind of done. We got rid of yucky food, tempting food. We're doing a pretty good job there. We got rid of hopefully some of the foods that have chemicals and additives, and boxed foods and packaged foods and expired foods. Then we went back and said, oh, let's toss this silverware. And yes. Faith, have you discovered anything?
I found I've got a lot of utensils. Like I didn't need 6 potato peelers.
Edward Scissorhand just doing those potatoes. Oh, that's a great story. Oh my God, Faith.
Yeah, it's surprising what you hold on to and sort of gadgets and things that you never really use. And they just end up cluttering the drawer up and you can't actually find what you do need. So it was a really good exercise just to get rid.
I've got a family that travels a lot, and I'm working with all four of them. There's two college-age sons and the parents that I work with, and they travel constantly. They do different things. And so we had to finally, after a long time, we had to really kind of look at their lives as almost on and off, which isn't a behavior that I like to teach, right? But on and off in the sense of going to be home, more convenient, plan our foods, go to the grocery store. And then what's the off week? Okay, how are we going to prepare for that? So it's kind of like a launch pad, right? So if you know you're going to go into a week that's going to be a lot of work and you can't be super active, how can you nail those last 2 days as you're launching into that, less active week or less nutritious week? And then how can you deploy back into reality with just hit the ground freaking running? And then just plan in those locations if, they travel to a lot of the same locations. So what are the best restaurants? Look ahead at the menus. What can you do at every single stop along the way? Yeah, so that type of stuff. Okay, when I looked at your non-weight loss goals for the three of you, they were exercise more. All of you, I think 2 or 3 of you mentioned improve your sleep, stable finances, improve energy, fit in some clothes, stand up for self. So are you guys doing better, Rita? Are you achieving some of those non-weight loss goals? How are you doing?
Absolutely. Yeah. I notice I am sleeping better. It's like towards the end of the week, I've noticed that my sleep amount declines. Like I'm down to like 6.5 hours, but
Okay.
I notice on my little Fitbit that, I'm dreaming, I'm sleeping. It's like a deep, deep sleep.
Okay.
So I don't wake up feeling tired or anything, but I just noticed that as the week progresses, like Thursday, Friday, I'm down to like 6.5 hours or 6 hours, but I feel good.
Okay. So you might have the hump day, the Wednesday deal that I do. So for years when I was unintentionally even tracking this stuff, but now that I was able to go back and look at it when I started teaching this, Wednesday was my tough day. It was always the day I cried. It was always the day I was emotional. It was always, always, always the day that, and for most people, that's the middle of your work week. For some of us who never take a day off, I don't know why it still hit for Wednesday for me. But here's my point with you. A lot of people will have a tough, it'll just amp up, tough midweek. And then they kind of start to go down. Then they sleep all weekend or try to recover. And then they go back and give their whole healthy life to their employer Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. That's not what we want to do. So if you know on Wednesdays you're struggling, really amp that up as your self-care day. Like really eat well that day, move well, get to bed early, Epsom salts bath, call a really positive friend and try to rejuvenate that Thursday, Friday so that you're not using all day Saturday to sleep till noon and recuperate or whatever. So you might be kind of a Wednesday girl. Okay, Faith, so if we go back to the non-weight loss goals, how do you feel like you're doing? First of all, you're killing it. And that doesn't mean that the other 2 of you guys aren't, but Faith, you're killing it. I'm really proud of you. You, my dolphin, my brain spinner, my hard to give yourself credit sticker girl. Ooh, look at her. I think she might be taking a compliment. She hasn't bucked me yet. But how are you doing on your non-weight loss goals?
This week, I have to say, I've slept a lot better than I did last week. And it's like for the first time in months and months and months, I've not woken up at 3 or 4 in the morning. And without fail, every single morning I used to wake up with a start at 3 o'clock in the morning or sort of 4 o'clock. And I haven't done it. I've slept all the way through, which is, for me, has been absolutely massive to actually sort of break that whole cycle. So that's been huge.
I am so proud of you. If we stick right on you with your ahas, what are some of the top 3-ish ahas that you've had so far when you started this?
The first one is how much when I overthink things, a lot of it is sort of it's a coping mechanism. And also it can be sort of a defense. It's a way, it's sort of to protect myself, but it's just being aware of when I'm doing that. I think the second one has been sort of over the last couple of days because it's been a really emotional week. There's been a lot going on, a lot of sort of things coming to a close that have been sort of needed to be dealt with for a long time, and sort of just a lot of emotions coming up. We went out on Friday, and I think I pushed myself so hard to do things, and a lot of the time I don't always stop and think, actually, is this right for me? Is this what I need to do right now? Do I need to take a step back? And it was having that awareness of actually the expectations that I've put onto myself and sort of where they've come from. And actually sort of, it's okay to stop. It's okay just to be. And I don't need to keep sort of pushing because of all these expectations. It sort of makes me ill at the end of the day.
You guys, that's a Catwoman sleeking all around town. That's awesome. Good job. I'm so proud of you. So Rita, what about you? Ahas. What are something that's poking out for you?
One of the things that I've noticed with the wellness logs, keeping track, is that the healthier I eat, once I started cleaning up my eating habits, I mean, I generally feel better overall. I mean, I'm thinking clearer, I'm getting enough sleep, I'm having that energy to get my workouts in, whether it's the YouTube videos in the morning or in the evening. You know, that was one of the biggest, and it's so simple. It's just so simple. It's like, it makes sense. You eat better, you feel better.
Yeah.
In the story. And then two, I've noticed with my age that the importance of moving, even if it's just stretching. You know, this my Fitbit has been helping tremendously by making sure I'm reaching my 10,000 plus steps a day. So on the days my boss isn't there, I mean, I'm going in circles in the office getting my steps in. And then, like, lastly, the main thing I've noticed is that because my TV time is like down to zilch, because I feel like I'm spending more time planning my foods, doing the shopping, the planning, the prepping, making sure I have everything ready to go the next day. And I've noticed that I'm constantly on this. I'm like, I need to give myself like a couple hours to go do something fun. You know, it's not all about this. Get your homework done, yes, but make some time for Rita. Go do something that I enjoy, takes my mind off of this.
You guys, your chronotype last week, and we talked about, even though most of you were getting up, you know, a little bit different on the times to get up. You know, remember Faith is a dolphin, and then we've got Rita and Troy who are bears. One thing I want to just bring to light this week, and for anybody listening when they're looking at this, is I want you to really start looking at different times of day that you're doing different things. So I want to point something out. If you are way off in the time frame, shift like 30 minutes if you can, increments, especially if it's getting up and going to bed. If it's other things such as time for coffee, just watch your headaches, but try, just play with it. The thing that I want to bring to your attention the most is when it's best to do certain things, such as brainstorming or critical thinking. They're very different for certain chronotypes, especially bears and dolphins. So let's take a look at that. If you look down here on difficult tasks from 10 to noon for bears, that makes the most sense to do this. Don't send anything critical that could ruin your job at 6 o'clock at night, my bears. Get it done before you eat carbs for lunch, okay? Honestly. If you look over here for dolphins, their intellectual tasks or professional emails or work is 4 to 6 p.m. Trust me, very important to start to look at when to and when not to do certain things. Including, and I have a really detailed clock, I'll work with you guys individually on this, but including things like even when you want to just sit and stare, like I said, exercise, or even with taking vitamins or certain things like that, your ratios of carbs and protein. So we're going to be working more on this, but I just wanted you guys to really be aware that shift some of this stuff too, okay? Did you guys start to think about that this week at all with your chronotype? A little bit?
Little bit.
Yeah, in about 2 weeks, just as a heads up, I'm going to have you actually write down your own personal clock and see where you are, which will be different than it was when we first started, because we've had some talks about it already. But I really want to make sure by the end of the docuseries, you're dialed into the best you, your best wellness clock. So we'll be making sure that that's going well. This week, you guys did your exercise videos.
It was a lot of fun, actually.
I was
It really
so
was.
impressed, Troy. I was impressed with all of you because listen, I post those up and then I have to like really pry or I can become a criminologist at some point because I'll do little drops that will, let me know whether someone's really doing it or not. Like I'll come right back and say, hey, Troy, what'd you think at the 12-minute mark when the dad, the son was working with the mom on that? And then I'll wait and see how many seconds it takes for him to respond because we'd already been going back and forth. Because then he's going to the video and going, shit, what happens at 12-minute mark? Right. So I didn't have to really drop the bombs for you guys, but it was fun. Why do you think I gave you 3 choices? What do you think, Faith? Why did I kind of throw that at you guys?
I mean, personally, the way I looked at it was I started off small. I'd got like a really hectic week anyway. So I thought I'll start off with the shorter videos and then build up to the longer ones. And then if I'd got a really busy day, I'd do sort of a shorter video because I thought I'd got my steps in, but it was sort of a good way to finish off the day. So it was just to sort of have that flexibility around what was going on that day.
That's a really good approach. That's a good approach. Rita, what about you? What did you think when I posted those 3?
I thought maybe give us choices, but for me, like in the past, way back in the past, I'd probably like screen them first, go, yeah, no, I'm not doing that one. Like the dance one. And I was like, no, I'm like, I just hit play. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here. But like he said, if you can't get the moves down, just keep moving. So the first time I tried that, I'm like, that's all I'm doing. I'm marching in place. I'm moving my arms. I'm lifting. I'm doing this, that, if I can't get the moves down, I'm still moving. But I'm like, great music though. But I thought they were fun. They were all of them. I know a couple of them I did twice. I only did that dancing one. I think I did that one twice, but man, it's quite a workout, but I didn't view it as a workout because I saw it more like a dance thing, which, I used to love to dance back in the day.
Well, and that's going to lead into that kind of on the road, off the road, on the life, off the life behavior we just chatted about, which really, this is going to start to be your story. It truly is. So if you think about being busy, you guys, and you're going, and then you come home and you try to do stuff because you have a busy week, that whole next week, what does our brain say and do? It's recovery week, right? And you just go into this kind of, you don't usually exercise more and eat healthier and all those things that you should be getting back into. So what happens, Troy, is you're gone, your body's exhausted, your mental muscle is exhausted. When you're on the road, you're constantly, it's like kind of like Faith's chronotype animal being a dolphin. You're kind of always awake when you're traveling or on the road. You got communication, you're alert, you're thinking about things, spent. Adrenal glands on fight or flight. So you're going to have to start to shift in. What does self-care look like when I'm on the road? Food as fuel. I mean, it's like kale salad, bubble bath when you're busy. That's you. It really is. How healthy can I be when it's a shit show? Really is. Faith, what about you? What's being uncovered in your wellness log so far?
There was a couple of things. The first one is just like, especially like last week where I wasn't sleeping as well, how much it affects my mood. I was more emotional, irritable, tired for most of the week. And then sort of following on to this week where I've slept a little bit better. I've had sort of a couple of days which have been really good days. And sort of the key things that have been different on that is that I've connected more with my friends, or I've sort of gone to the gym and done sort of exercise classes. So it's been sort of more how sort of the self-care is sort of really important as well, sort of each day. Especially when I can go days with not sort of speaking to other people. So it's how sort of that's really important.
Yeah, the mood's going to follow some of that data. Okay, good. We'll keep diving into that stuff. This week we had some inclusions and exclusions. Faith, how did you do with your excluding of your calorie coffees?
I wasn't sure if I'd miss it, but it wasn't until I actually took it away I realised actually I was actually hungrier more. But then I was sort of craving sugar sort of in different ways, which was quite sort of, I think, strange for me. So I was getting sort of hungrier sooner. So when it was coming up to lunchtime, I was sort of feeling the hunger sort of stronger. So that was
But when you put this much fluid in your tummy's not going to tell you that you're hungry right now, right? And plus, if it's caffeinated, we're in this hyper kind of manic-y place. The last thing that we're going to do is recognize our tummy growling and go get something to eat. And then the sugar piece of it. Oh, if you guys look at caramel, all of that syrupy stuff that's in that, you will be shocked at oh my gosh. I actually am kind of surprised you didn't say that you got some headaches and stuff, because when we lower that type of sugar and or decrease some of the caffeine, we can get, cranky or headaches. But you know what? You're going to save a shit ton of money too, even if you cut that in half and go back to having a treat versus a habit.
I mean, I don't have any other sugar in my diet, so that was sort of the only sugar I was having.
No, because you're drinking those beers that Troy loves. Your snobby fruit from last week we chatted about. Rita, did you try it? Did you try tofu or any chickpeas this week?
Unfortunately, no, I did not.
Why did you? Did you just not want to play, or did you forget?
Remember way back at the beginning when I said I'm a very picky eater, and I look at it and I look at the texture. I mean, I analyzed it. I'm like looking at the texture of tofu, and then I'm looking. I mean, I have the chickpeas and all that. I'm like, yeah, no. Kind of like, when you're a kid, plug your nose. You're like, yeah, no, that's not happening.
How is it?
Good.
It looks like you're enjoying yourself. Oh, yeah, that looks.
So do you eat hummus?
No, I do not.
Interesting. So you really do have, you do have issues. Okay, we can chat about.
I do have issues.
Not saying that you have. I'm that way with eggplant, okay?
I admit it. I'm being honest.
There's a difference between somebody who's tried something and knows the outcome versus someone who's not willing to try it because they're a habitual eater. That's not the case that you want. Okay. Where we are headed this week, because you're going to be documenting a lot more detail on your wellness log. You are going to be documenting your macros and your calories, not just the types of food, and your sleep and your emotion and your exercise and your focus words, all those fun things. But we're going to try to dive in based on your goals, whether it's weight loss or weight gain goals, how many calories about you should be eating and about what your macronutrients should be. So let's take a dive into this. We need to, first of all, learn what are the definitions of nutrition, diet, and food-related terms. We have to learn all about that. We need to know what we're talking about, right? And then we're going to talk about what type of your goal it is. And we're going to also talk about gender does make a difference, you guys. Hormones make a difference when it comes to the appropriate nutrition plan for you. And then we're going to understand your body type, your genetics, because that also makes a difference. The package we're in, the vessel we're in, is what it is. Our bone structure, there is something to be said that, she looks like her mama does, right? So let's take a look at some definitions. What does nutrition mean? Told you this before. That is literally the nutritious values, how you're being nourished. The diet is the plan, the guidelines of which you're going to follow. How many hours you should eat, what portions, those types of things, the diet. When we look at a calorie, the calorie is the amount of heat needed to raise the temperature of a quantity of water by 1 degree. That's the scientific term. The main thing I want you guys to think about is how essential calories are. Calorie deprivation is not the way to go. Too calorically deprived. If you're trying to achieve your goals, you need a certain amount, right, to stay healthy. All right, what are macro and micronutrients? Macros, carbohydrates, proteins, fat, and your micros are your vitamins and minerals. We've got the carbs, which is what the brain needs and the muscles to work properly. We need carbohydrates, okay? So don't go off restricting a shit ton of carbs. You need them. That's your number one fuel source. And then we have your fats. Your fats, all sorts of fats. I have them listed here for you. So saturated, monosaturated, polyunsaturated, trans fats, and the definitions there. That is the second source of fuel your body uses after carbohydrates. And then we have proteins. Proteins are the building blocks. We all know that. They help repair tissue and essential hormones and enzymes for your immune system. And that is the third source of energy that your body uses. So now we have to talk about determining your goals, and each of you have different goals. So whether it is to lose weight or gain weight, lose fat, which most of us want to do. And then the confusion is how am I going to lose some body fat, but also not lose a lot of muscle? The reality is simultaneously you can do both of those things. However, it's really difficult. And frankly, you'll be more successful if we can focus on one or the other and then kind of shift. Focus on one for a bit, see what the results are. Hover a little bit, shift your macronutrients and calories, and then work on, say, strength training or muscle mass increase. So we'll be taking a look at that as well. And then another thing I want us to, I'm going to challenge you with this week is the concept of intermittent fasting. And the reality is we all fast. We just don't call it that. I rather call it eating windows. So think about it. When you go to bed at night, your last meal until you have your first meal the next morning, you're actually fasting when you're sleeping. Okay, so eating window this next week, we're going to try a 10-hour window. That means you'll start eating at whatever time you choose. 10 hours later, you're going to stop. And there's a lot of documentation saying that intermittent fasting does help improve blood pressure and heart rate, immune system, memory, all of those things. Some people intermittently fast every day, meaning they have an eating window that shrinks every day. They use that same window. Some people will even fast, say, perhaps on a Saturday. They're not going to eat for that day. So the reasons that you do fast are very important. We are not doing it here. If you have any eating disorder whatsoever, disclaimer here, depending on what your health goals are, this may not be for you. Okay, let's look at your body type, ecto, meso, and endomorph. We've got some pictures here of male and female, both sides. And ecto, you're going to have more of a slender build, narrow shoulders, delicate frame, faster metabolism, harder to gain weight or muscle. You tend to get lean faster, usually need a higher carb nutrition plan to prevent your muscle loss. Mesos, you tend to be muscular, well-defined, athletic, broad shoulders, dense bone structure, and you tend to put on fat faster than ectos. Okay, an endomorph, round or pear-shaped, softer, shorter limbs, stockier, slower metabolism. So it does make a difference what your body type is when it comes to your nutrition plan. Let's take a little talk here about a peek here at gender and some red flags. So when we talk about gender, females have a higher, typically, level of estrogen hormone in their body. And estrogen stimulates fat acid breakdown and releases HGH, which is human growth hormone. Okay, so that inhibits the uptake of carbs. So women have increased blood flow through their adipose tissue. This doesn't necessarily mean that women should consume less carbs. We have to be careful than men, but it does tend to show that women may not need as many carbohydrates for fuel because we burn them a little bit more efficiently. So we still have to kind of watch them, right? But comparing the genders. Even a healthy nutrition plan needs frequent review and visiting of goals. We know that. Red flags. Okay, some red flags. Think about your macros when it comes down to, are you recovering more slowly from workouts? Are you sore for a longer period of time, struggling or gain muscle mass, sick or injured more often than normal, irregular performance, mood, or sleep patterns? If some of those red flags are popping up, we need to take a look at your macro and micro nutrients. So here's a pie chart, 3 of them. On the left, higher carb ratio. This will increase the muscle mass. There are ranges there for your percents of carbs, fats, and protein. Middle pie chart is moderate carb ratio for maintenance. And then on the far right, lower carb ratio for fat loss. So again, depending on everybody's goals, these are the percents that you would hover in, the percents of your total calories consumed. Nutrient ideas. I've just listed some things here to remind all of us what we're going to focus on this week. Veggie carbs, unlimited. Go ahead and eat as many veggies as you want. There are so many controversial nutritionists have certain beliefs, personal trainers, physicians, endocrinologists, in regards to the plan that you get put on based off what your goals are. You know, the good old American diet, this is the percent of you, what you eat. Well, doesn't work for everybody. It just doesn't. So 3,500 calories does equal a pound. And is it as simple as calories in, calories out? There's a lot of complexities. There's a lot of different things in there. But if you really think about why am I not losing weight? It's because you're consuming too many calories based off of you're not burning enough. It truly is, unless you have a metabolic disorder, insulin resistant, or something of the like that's broken. That's really what it is it's food choices. Yeah. Thoughts? What about your thoughts, Miss Faith?
I think a lot of the macros I've worked with before, so that makes a lot of sense. But it's quite interesting what you're saying about carbohydrates, because I've got a hormone imbalance that my body makes too much testosterone. So I generally avoid too many carbs because my body doesn't like them. And also it doesn't like sugar because I've got insulin resistance through the sort of hormone imbalance as well. So it makes a lot of sense why I generally avoid those types of foods.
Yeah.
Because my body doesn't like them.
Yeah, we'll amp up your protein, healthy fats, and keep your carbs low based off of your hormones. Yeah. Case closed. Bye-bye. It's over. Troy, what are your thoughts?
No, I totally get the macros. I've been keto. You and I've had this conversation a little bit with the keto thing, and it's a very detailed plan as far as your macros go. If your macros are off, you're hosed. I mean, truly. And it's a year ago worked a hell of a lot better for me than it is right now. Mm-hmm. And it's something I definitely want to explore and look at and see maybe there's a different direction that I should go. One, I'm getting older. Two, there's a lot of changes, and so yeah, it's trying to find that right spot is tough sometimes.
Well, and things work until they don't work, right? So just because even with a Mediterranean diet for some people, it's like, oh, it's colorful and I love it and that's just fantastic and I lost this weight and I had so much energy. If all of a sudden it's not working, I have a client right now who just went in and had a ton of blood work done because she was having medical issues, and the amount of inflammation caused by certain foods, guess what? They were all healthy foods. But when you get to the place where you consume so much, kale is one of them. But when she had this done 2 years ago, kale wasn't on the list. But if you don't moderate and you overconsume or hyper focus on certain things, even if it's a good diet, you can cause sensitivities. So that's why moderation is so important. And Troy, to speak to keto, which I'm not an anti-keto person, I am a healthy fat promoter. I don't believe in eating another animal's back ass fat helps promote health. Anyway, I don't want anybody eating my back fat. However, conceptually, does it work intermittently? Yes. The danger in going into ketosis is that people don't truly understand what's happening to their system and piss on a stick. So you know where your ketones are. It can be very dangerous. It's a complex, not the type of plan the average bear, Troy, as you know, but yes, yeah. I wicked hear you. This week, we're going to go into habits. Habits. A lot of them, you guys, you learned along the way, and you are not totally responsible for all of them. However, we have to assume some of the responsibility now that we're big boys and girls, and also recognize that our children, grandchildren, co-workers, friends are now watching our habits too, right? They can be absorbing our healthy habits and or our unhealthy habits. So this week, we're going to start going back, like the books that are way over there that you can't see, going over there. And we're going to figure out what you learned from your family, your mentors, your teachers, your culture, your traditions, things that formed the things that you do without you even knowing, such as 9 o'clock at night, many people, including myself, TV is on, grab your popcorn, sit down, have a little bowl of ice cream. We're all going to chat, family time, watch TV. Habit. Doesn't mean it's a bad habit if we were consuming something that might be a little healthier. But if you take that habit forward without knowing that you can twist it a little bit, it doesn't serve me. Something like if your parents don't work out regularly, how and why would you know that fitness needs to be a part of your life? You wouldn't know. If you have a PE teacher or a phys ed teacher or a athletic director or coach who says, hey, you gotta lose weight, Peggy, or why can't you drag that? You're not strong enough, or get up those ropes, or geez, girl, that'll affect your self-esteem the rest of your life. We got to figure out what all these things are that you brought forward. And so we can either get rid of them, rewire them a little bit, or create new ones. So we're going to go through 4 parts where we're going to look at the history with nutrition, exercise, mindset, and social environment. That piece is like, what'd you do for holidays, people you were around, family and friends. And this week, we're going to look at nutrition and exercise, talk about it next week, and then go into mindset and social environment. It's going to uncover, 1 week might be okay for Rita and not for Faith, because it could stir up a bunch of shit like, oh my God, are you kidding me? I just remembered my grandmother binged, hid her food and binged. And is that why I'm doing it? Is that why I keep treats in a drawer? It could stir up a lot of shit. The next week could be Troy's week. So I just want you to respect the process in this and try to be as open and transparent as possible when we're together, because it helps everybody. It will just really help if you guys share your story. A lot of people just don't even understand how big habits are. Let's go over this just really quickly. Even, habits are things that we do repetitively, right? Duh, frequent repetition. Healthy habits, good habits. I told Troy, I think last week, I said, hey, just shows we're good at something, even if we do bad habits, right? So here's the thing. Habits are they help people change. Okay, I'm going to give this to you. Here's specific. If you're going to eat an Egg McMuffin every single morning because somebody in your family did, you can still eat something every single morning with your family. Let's just trade out the food. If you have good habits in place, you're less taxed mentally because they just go like this. You're not thinking about what's healthy, not healthy. You've already figured it out. Less taxing physically and emotionally, right? It takes a lot of effort to put in a new habit. Once you keep it going, it becomes mindless, effortless. The habits put you in charge. Now you take action. You no longer can say, Troy, I work too much, or I got this going on, or I got this going on. If you get a good habit, it just puts you in charge, like brushing your teeth, taking your medication. You may not want to go for a walk the second you get home from a long day at work, but you create a habit of like, I can't go in the house until I walk for 10 minutes. You're in charge. Controls your emotions. Okay, if you're inactive, you beat the shit out of yourself. You feel so guilty. You tomorrow yourself to death. Again, it makes you mindless without thinking. Okay. Like I said, I think I told you last week, Troy, even that, you can walk on the phone and when you're on the phone and solve a ton of shit, make a lot of appointments. That's mindless, putting 2 things together. The consequences that you have with habits just rid so many things you don't even know that are happening right now. You wake up in the morning, you're stiff. If you have a habit of as soon as you get up, you do some jumping jacks or whatever, every single thing that you do causes a consequence. If you don't do something, you're stiff. If you don't do something, you're in pain. So a habit can get rid of those symptoms, whatever I'm trying to say. Frees you emotionally, physically, spiritually more. It's an opportunity to ensure progress. Habits are comforting. They prep us for emergencies, right? Here's a big one. When you guys plan meals, prepare ahead. What if you have to work late? What if your kid gets sick? What if? You're prepared, right? If you plan that on the weekend before, it's a done deal. And then habits are rewarding internally and externally. Why? Because when the habit's in place, you're going to get all these results: improved blood work, blood pressure, strength, confidence, strong boundaries, all that fun stuff. Makes sense? Kind of a duh. Okay. Troy, what do you think your worst habit is? One of your worst habits that comes to mind?
Giving up.
Oh, I didn't expect you to say that. Yeah. At what point do you give up when you don't see it? What's your habit?
Giving up when I don't see reward or I don't think it's worth it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's kind of a direct term, but it's a very broad statement. There's a lot involved there where it's, shit starts to get tough and starts to go sideways a little bit, and it's easier just to take the easy way out. And so, like I said, giving up may not be the right exact term, but
Discouraging.
the easy way.
Yeah, it's discouraging. And if you start to think about it this week, is keep in the back of your mind, how long is it that I can actually do a habit before I quit? It's
Good
very
habit or bad habit?
right. That's actually a good point.
Bad habits are very easy to continue. Good habits are very hard to start.
But they still took effort to embed.
Yeah.
Get the ice cream, go to the store, get in the car, go there, spend the money, work for the money, get the ice cream, come home, and beat myself up. I mean, you actually put in more effort than you think on your unhealthy. Even gaining weight, gaining 100 pounds wasn't easy. It took a lot of effort, a lot of shopping, a lot of guilt trips, a lot of denial. I mean, people think, oh, it just happened. No, it didn't just happen. You're like, we're busy, man. It took some effort to put on 100 pounds. What was I going to say? The other thing I want you guys to think of, Troy, with what you just said, is sometimes with nutrition, people can go with habits for a little bit longer, let's say, because usually they really focus on that when they start a new plan. So maybe you can follow something for 2 weeks and then you're like, screw that, over it. Maybe for some people it's 3 days, right? That's your history. You got to figure that out. With exercise, you might be someone that can put 21 days in place. You might be someone that's like a day. I'm starting to, right? That's very different. Self-care plans are very different habit tracking. So think about that. When we look at habits, crawl, walk, run. My crawlers, I want you guys to think about which one you are. Now, obviously, ideally, a little bit of all three is the healthiest. Sometimes we crawl when we start a new habit, like, do I want to do it, right? Or goal. And then sometimes we stand up and we walk a little bit, and then we run, and then we go shit, and we sit down. So ideally, we're a little bit of all three, hopefully. But I want you to think about, when I go through these, which one you might be. So a crawler typically is going to be one that takes a little while to get started, right? They just sit there. Think about a baby. They just got up from sitting, they're crawling, kind of checking it out. They can actually, feel like, why would I get up and walk? Because that effort is that's like a lot, right? Stand up on the couch. I mean, so people who crawl with habits, they're like, this is enough. I don't need to leap, just these little tiny, okay. They wait to get motivated. They're waiting to their first day, their Monday mulligans, they're do-over people. A lot of time can pass for our crawlers, and they can get sick because they haven't taken any motion. And so then they're the ones that call me and say, hey, I have diabetes, or hey, I have high blood pressure. It takes a lot of mental muscle to be a crawler. I don't know if you guys are spending a lot of time back before we started, probably more so than now. And then it takes a long time for a habitual crawler to achieve goal. Okay. If you want to lose 50 pounds and 2 years is your goal, it's okay. Just know that crawling, it's going to take you a little while. All right, so the walker, a little bit more successful than the crawler, right? You're going to get there a little bit faster. You might remember what it is to crawl. You might sit on your ass once in a while. That makes sense. You might not always walk in a straight line, right? Okay, that's okay. That's okay. The caution to the walker is to be careful to not get too complacent. So think about, let me just use Rita as an example. Because she, back in the day, was an exerciser and kind of got off track a little bit for a while. But as a walker, go do it, love to do it. This is what I'm going to do. I'm a walker. But if she doesn't get diverse, become a runner at times, get excited to go do something, you can get complacent. That's where you get injured. That's where you get sick, those types of things. So if you were just a walker. Now, my runners makes complete sense. Those are my kind of squirrel. They see a fad at 2 o'clock in the morning on TV. They're like, you wouldn't believe what I'm going to do, man. I'm going to lose 100 pounds before my wedding on June 1st. And they just hit the ground. They don't know the resources. They haven't got a clue, haven't gathered anything. Now, I'm not saying that running at times isn't important. It is. If you have a big goal to go for the A, it is. But to always take off from sitting to bolting and running, you typically will give up just shy of goal, which might be part of your issue, Troy, is that you are a runner, meaning that when you have a goal, it can be lofty. When you are a runner and you see that you're going to miss it or you're not getting the progress you want, it's like, sit down, right? Lots of times a runner won't even start to walk again. They just go sit. You know, people hauling ass in the park, they're like, oh, got to sit on the bench. Some people just don't come right down to a walk. What do you think you're more of a crawler, walker, or runner, Troy?
You know, when you started, I thought I was going to be more of a crawler, but I think you're right. I think I'm more of a runner. I see. Yeah, you had it pretty well nailed there. I
do
see
think you are.
I get close to the end and I'm not there yet, and then I start to get discouraged, and I start that giving up process and giving in and just slowing down. And
well, the runner, if this isn't working, keto. I'm just picking on you. But that they're the ones that typically were ordering all of the new equipment when they're shopping online and signing up for a boot camp and all of those things. When they wake up in the morning, they're like, Jesus, I just spent $5,000 on a biking tour in France. But they don't think about stuff typically. What about your thoughts, Faith, when you think about crawling, walking, and running when it comes to habits or goals?
I think so. Typically in the past, I've been like a runner or sort of switched to a crawler. There's sort of like a switch between the two, either just completely sort of inactive or sort of hit the ground running with things. I'm trying to find that sort of middle ground there, which sort of works more for me. Just walking.
Yes.
And actually sort of listening to my body more, what I want to do, rather than sort of just having sort of the on and off.
I still believe that if somebody walked, 3 miles a day, every day for their life, starting when they're 15, they're going to be healthier than those of us who hang and bang in the gym 4 hours a day in their 20s, and then so that's walking. Just keep going, keep steadily going. But what you described, crawler and a runner, on and off behavior, black and white, A or F, that's going to be part of the way we want to analyze those habits that you've had in the past so that we can change them, rewire. Okay, what about you, Rita? Crawl, walk, run.
I go between walking and running. I do see where this new program comes out, like the intermittent fasting. I'm like, yes. Here's so many people that, I've lost 50 pounds. Of course, they don't say how, the time frame, but I'm like, hey, piques my attention. And then I get overwhelmed because there's so much information. Well, one does it this way, one does it that way. So then I'm kind of like, okay, I'll go back to my walking. I don't think I've ever reverted back to just crawling, but that's where I go back and forth, walking and running.
So for you, so you guys, all three of you are different, which is what I love, because this is going to be great, not planned. And Rita, what your lessons are right now is that sitting and crawling is where your self-care, your observation, your awareness, your self-discoveries that you're going through right now. When you're constantly walking and running, you wouldn't have even known that you were lacking protein.
Right.
So when you think about, I'm going to crawl, sit, and assess. I'm going to freaking sit here, figure out what the hell's working and not working. I'm not a quitter. I don't have to keep going, just say I'm going to keep going. So that's going to be great. So we're going to do a little bit of a shift here. We're going to look at Troy and try to make him keep walking, right? Because he's been running. He's either been napping or running. He's either watching. Are you a football? What do you watch? Sport? You're a sports guy, right?
yeah, football, hockey, golf.
Yeah. Anything with a ball. Yeah.
All right. Can you just explain what's going on here?
Thank you. I have no idea.
I mean, it wouldn't be sports if there wasn't a ball, I guess. Baton.
Oh, wrestling doesn't have a ball. Is that sport? Track.
I know. So really, I don't know what I'm talking about. All right, you guys, this is awesome. All right, we are working on focus words. So for those of you who are listening at home, focus words are really important. They can help us get focused. A through D, those 4 letters. We're breaking up the alphabet based on the amount of weeks that we have left. So this last week, you chose a word between A and D. Troy, what was your word this last week?
Commitment.
Faith?
Breathing.
Rita?
Determined.
Did it work for you guys this week, whether it was nutrition or did you think about it at all? You'll get better at this as we keep going. Okay. Troy, moving forward this week, we're going into the next 4 letters. E, H. Have you thought about a word for this week?
I have, and I'm going to take the obvious. Focus.
I love that. Follow one concept until successful. Focus. Good job. Faith, what about you?
Emotions.
Girl. I'm so not going to pick that this week with you. That's good though, because that's kind of what you've been uncovering. Rita, have you thought about your word for this
I
week?
did. I'm going with endurance.
Wow.
Yeah. That's,
You're going with the keep going. So be cautious to that because
Yes.
that follows your habits. Just be good. Yeah. Okay. Be cautious
Yeah.
with that. Okay. Sounds good. I need to help. The only way I'm not going to know where to take you guys and help you be successful is to figure out where you are right now. So no judgment. I need to know the breakdown. Just write your calories for all your food, all your macros, everything. And I'm going to have you start just posting some pictures and analyzing it and figuring out where you want to go. Okay. Because I mean, even this week, Faith was like, oh my gosh, I'm off. And when I did some of her averages, she's almost right on the money. We just got to flip her couple of macros around, which makes sense. She was nailing it with her hormones, Annie, even. Look at you. All right, and then we're going to do an exclusion this week. I'm calling it exclusion, but it's a very healthy thing we're going to do. You have a 10-hour eating window. Some people love eating windows, right? Because it just tells them when to start and when to stop, okay? And 10 hours is going to be, most of us go 12 hours without eating anyway. When you go to bed and when you get up, okay? If you go to bed at 10, you get up, you guys go to bed earlier even, you're going to be okay. 10-hour eating window. You guys can do it. And then your inclusion, we're going to talk about your letters here in a second, but your inclusion is to call a family or friend this week that you haven't chatted with for a while. So it's just going to help increase the relationship quadrant that we've been working on. So let's go to the letters. Last week we talked about writing a letter to someone. It didn't mean you had to completely restore a relationship, but I did want you to think about, Troy, you had said, rock off here, rock off there earlier in the show. What was some of that burden that you were carrying around that maybe sometimes it's perception, like what we think of this story and what they thought of this story, like wasn't even the same. So sometimes it's just uncovering that shit. Troy, how did your letter share as much as possible that is okay with you about your letter?
A lot of it was, I never intended for it to ever be sent or for the person to ever see it. But it was one of those things that it ended up being about 6 pages long. And
impressive.
And it was just things that needed to be said for me, not for anybody else, just for me to say things and get things off my chest and go, look, this is not okay. That wasn't okay. This was okay. This wasn't, all of it. And it was very enlightening and very refreshing just to sit down and start writing. And I didn't realize I wrote 6 pages until I stopped. And then I looked at it and went, holy shit.
Have you ever done something like this before?
No, not to that extent.
Right, yeah. Good job. Oh my gosh. So you feel like you took a little bit of weight off? Like you're just like.
I do. And it's funny because the ahas that we were talking about earlier kind of went,
I was wondering if
came from initially doing the letter and just kind of opening up and kind of cracking that shell and going, okay, this is what I need to do. So.
Yeah, and you don't need to send it. Sometimes people will keep it and they'll go, hey, you know what? I wrote this 2 years ago. We're in an awesome place now. Our friendship is blank or whatever. But man, I just want to explain to you where I was. Some people like to burn it, whatever. You own it. Rita, how did it go with you with your letter?
of had like the reverse effect because, you know, the letter that I wrote was like over 15 years ago over a comment that a former coworker had made. But to me, it's kind of like when I left that job, you know, I no longer had contact with that person until what, like maybe here 20 years later, thanks to social media. You know, you reach out to people, hey, how you doing? That kind of stuff. So, you know, I wrote the letter with no intention of her seeing it or getting it or whatnot, but it kind of brought back a lot of like, oh yeah, that's, you know, what she said was not okay.
And that's something I just want you to think about is we often tell ourselves, oh, I'm over it. I don't care what people think. And then you stir it up and it has what you said, the opposite effect. Because just because the letter that Troy decided to write happened to be he picked that person that helped him, like he's like, yeah, that was kind of a good exercise. You can have every intention of going, you know, I'm going to write this out just because I think this is a good homework assignment. And then all of a sudden you understand, I didn't deal with this shit. And it can stir up everything right back to that employer and they didn't treat me well and I wasn't paid enough. And why did I stay? Me can bring up all sorts of shit. So good for you for just challenge yourself. Keep asking yourself, do I really get over stuff or kind of just put dirt on it? So Faith, what about you? How did your letter go?
I think it was similar to Troy. So I wrote a letter and it wasn't something I could send because it was to my dad who passed like a long time ago. But it gave me the space to actually write down, think a lot of the things. There was sort of good things. There was things that I've never been able to say to him. There was also things that I was quite angry about, and it just gave me the time to actually the space to process that, because I felt when I was younger there was a lot of things that I wasn't allowed to say, which I think sort of leads on to a lot of the habit histories, and there was sort of some things that I've already uncovered that that's sort of where I picked it up from them. And there was tears, there was sort of, it was just a good exercise because I didn't realise how much I was holding on to. Because I'd never sort of said those things before.
That's amazing. And it's, so many things we don't say to people who pass on. Troy, were you going to say something?
I was going to kind of add to that because I was in the same spot with Faith there. It was the one thing that I found with writing the letters, you can say anything. You can be as mean, you can be as pissed off, you can be as whatever you need to be and get those things out. And that was huge, absolutely huge to be able to do something like that.
All right, this next week, let's get some assignments out. Audit number 4. This one is my favorite because you're going to think it's going to be the normal kind of thing. You're going into your bedroom or wherever else you keep all your... That side was I've never seen a face like that. Oh, you wait till I have, I can't even do that. Oh, it was good. I love that. Okay. Hey, we're going into your bedroom. The old kitty cat came out in her. She's like, shit, you're going to find all my little toys and outfits.
Oh, Lord, here we go again.
Oh, boy.
Together for an hour, and that's Faith is like, okay, everybody. All right, I only said about 10 words, and everybody lost. We're going into your bedrooms. Together. You know how I like pre and post pictures, so do hide a few things. Because they're so clean right now. In all seriousness, we're going to go audit. Somebody watches this without volume, they're going to be, what shit? So into your room we go. When you look at your clothes, We always go, oh, what have you not worn for a while? You should donate that or get rid of it. That's one part of it for sure. Unless it's something that you want to keep that's a pair of jeans from 1984 that has some value or, meaning to you, then yeah, keep it. But if you have clothes, many of us have clothes we've never even worn. That pretty dress that you wanted to for the New Year's party that you haven't put on yet. We might have a pretty dress we haven't worn. Why? Why has it been there for 5 years? Probably should donate it or get rid of it. That's the story you tell yourself every time you look at that dress. Really? Really? Have you not worn it? A couple of years, look at it, get rid of it, donate it, gotta go. If you look at a style, you know how many people wear clothing styles that they do not compliment them whatsoever? If you were 5'2", still wearing a block shirt, good luck with that. If you want to look 4'5", all right. Troy, you might want to wear a V-neck, just hold it just slightly off to the side. I don't know what Troy's style is, but you want to look at style. You want to look at colors. Certain colors, they just don't look good on people. If you have all black, let's get some other colors. Certain materials. Why do we keep wearing certain materials that we don't like, right? That's the clothes. Accessories. If you want it, let's get rid of some of the accessories you're not wearing. Belts. This is famous for my guys. They'll have that belt they've had for 19 years. Oh, it's good. It's comfortable, but it's got every single hole has been used for every single weight loss journey. Right? So if you got to replace your belts, accessories, it's the same as the kitchen. What can you get rid of? What can you donate? And as you're doing it, I'm looking for the following. How do they do these things? How did they go to their closet and then their drawers and then their shoes? Did they throw it all on the bed and start? Are they taking and jumping into it like a runner to do it all? Are they walking to do it slowly? Are they crawling? And next Friday, I talked to them and they haven't done it at all. I want pre-pictures, as long as nothing is super personal, of where you are and the end. So of your closet, just pull out one of your craziest drawers and take a picture. We're going to do pre and post pictures of those audits. You're going to really be grateful that you did that. We're going to take a waist measurement this week. Okay. So towards the end, next weekend, take a waist measurement. You're going to do the first and second part of habit history, the nutrition and the exercise piece. We can dive back and see what you've been bringing forward that we can rewire or get rid of. That will be a lot of fun. And then we're going to work on just trying to shift that 168 hours and find you guys some time that makes more sense to get this shit done that you need to get done. So thoughts, Rita, as we tie up this session?
On some of the stuff I've kind of already been doing, I jumped ahead, but like wellness logs, all the macros, because I mean, I've been tracking the protein, the carbs, the fat. I've even been keeping track of the fiber.
Yeah.
I have piles of clothes. Seriously, I have piles of clothes that some stuff I'm like, I'm going to fit back into that. And I keep the last couple of years, I'm just like, I keep taking it out and I keep telling myself, I'm going to fit into that. I really like that. That's cute. I'm going to fit into that. And what do? I fold it and I put it right where it's at right now. So
you guys, we got to have an honest to God story with that. We've got to really, really think about what that says to us every time we look at that, every time we don't hit what we think that goal is. And the reality is would you even wear it? Is the style still in? And is it still the same you? Sometimes It's not the same you, but it doesn't make it. Really think about what it does here for some of the things you're holding on to that you can't, or maybe we'll never get back into. If you have clothes that are 2 sizes above, why would you keep them? So that you get there again? I have people that has 4 sizes ranges. So when they get here, they have clothes, and when they get up here, they have clothes. Why would you do that? So from right now, what you weigh today, you do not need 2 sizes more than what you wear today in your closet. Well, it looks good with a belt on it. No, it doesn't. No, fuck, it doesn't. It does not look good with a belt on it. If you don't know what it looks like, ask somebody else. Okay, what about you, Troy? How do you feel heading into this week?
A little scared for you to look in my bedroom.
What's those face?
No, I've actually kind of been going through. Better be serious here now. Come on. No, I've been kind of doing that anyway, going through and getting rid of.
We're making this humorous, but it is a true story. Because
Oh, and who says wellness can't be fun?
who says that? Food and fitness is not fun. What other? It's a nicer F word.
Yeah.
Oh, but I didn't even
Unless it's
talk.
leg day. Nobody likes leg day. No,
Talked about physical fitness yet.
Yeah.
That's not good. Yeah.
Anyway, so I've kind of been doing that anyway, just trying to get rid of some of the stuff because I am considerably smaller now than I was a year ago.
Yeah.
So all that bigger stuff that I had is gone now, and it's all getting donated. And then, so now I'm
Good.
where I'm at and smaller. I'm not going back the other direction. So,
And you guys,
I've already been doing a lot of that.
I want you to think about this. Honestly, and it's going to sound funny, but I'm being sincere. We need to replace our undergarments, our nylons, whatever we wear. I mean, some women will keep a bra for 10 years just because you're single and nobody sees it. Hello. We got some elasticity issues, even if you haven't got anything. Replace some of your undergarments, even if you have to do one at a time. That sexy bra from when you're 18, you might not need it anymore. You want to share with us the main concern, or?
It's just full of all sorts of things.
How are you keeping it together, Rita?
I'm not.
Oh
my God.
Good for you, Faith.
No, I didn't mean it in that way, but no, I'm similar. I've got clothes that are 2 sizes smaller. I've got like almost like 2 or 3 wardrobes in my bedroom, and it's something I've been thinking of auditing because there's a lot of clothes that I've had for 20 years. So it's I realise that I hold on to a lot of things and I don't let them go very often. So
yeah, I have to be cautious when I say this about people who have a big wellness journey in front of them. So I don't want to offend anybody, but those on that journey that have a big journey in front of them, whether it's lose 100 pounds or revamp their whole life, tend to be people who kept stuff around them, right? Because even people who are insecure, lots of sexual abuse or people like that will put on weight to protect them, right? Nobody thinks I'm sexy. Nobody thinks, and they put on this layer. Well, they will layer their life with clothes, with extra food. And I'm not labeling anybody as a hoarder. I'm just saying that we keep comforting things. We keep the what ifs. We're prepared, right? With your 20-year-old stuff like that, do think about if you want to save any of that for, future stuff, because it's always fun to pull out, gaucho boots for a Halloween party if you've got bell bottoms. All right, so this week, physical fitness. Rita, I'm going to ask you right now to assign the group one thing to do this week for physical fitness. Each of you are going to assign, we'll have 3 assignments. So Rita, what are you assigning the group this week?
I'm going to assign the group some kind of either yoga or flexibility session of some sort.
Okay, how many times this week? How many minutes?
Let's just do, honestly, I would say 3 times, 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes.
Okay. Troy's like, she's acting like that's no big deal. That's an A for me. She just acted like it was an F. Hey, let's do nothing. Let's do, okay, that's fantastic. That's going to be tough for some people, right? Good job. Troy, what is your assignment for the group this week?
No pressure whatsoever.
No.
Do the Latin dances again.
How many times?
4 times a week. 4 times a week this week.
I love that. That's great. Okay, Faith, what about you?
Walking outside 3 times a week for at least 30 minutes.
It's going to be a rough week.
Why do I do my job? Now listen, this tells me a lot about you guys because first of all, you didn't put into any consideration about yourself when you did these assignments. Okay, because if you think about it, you now have yoga 20 to 30 minutes 3 times this week. You have to Latin dance 4 times, and you have to go walk 3 times for 30 minutes. It should be, even though those are all doable, you can piggyback them too. So like you do a Latin dance and then you stretch for 20 minutes, okay? So keep track of this criteria. But usually somebody, when I ask them questions like that, they just want to play. Like, oh my gosh, I get to assign some stuff. And then when I'm done, they're like, I mean, when I have a class of 8, they have no clue by the time I'm going around. They're like, that's like 2 hours a day. I'm like, should have thought about how you guys, it's so fun. All right. Hey, how are you feeling going into this week?
I think I'm feeling actually quite optimistic. Last week.
You're not optimistic?
No, I am optimistic. I feel like last week was a lot of things that I needed to deal with, that it's sort of been quite a big weight that's lifted, and it's like a new start. So it's sort of mentally, it's a big thing that I can sort of put to one side, that I don't need to sort of carry around.
You kept going last week, even though it was tough. Rita, what are your last thoughts going into this week?
It might be a little challenging, but it's doable. It's definitely doable. So I may have to do a little more time management, shift things a little bit around, but it's doable.
We're going to figure out your nutrition plan this week. And again, remember, it's an experiment. So just because it might look perfect on paper and if blah, 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 let's look at your experience. But we always have to give an experiment a long enough period of time to try to embed so we can see what the outcome is. We can't just stop, start, because it's like having a bad relationship. And I'll leave you with this. When we have a bad relationship, think about the really bad, like it was so bad. Oh my gosh, I'm going to leave you. Da, da, da. And then all of a sudden it happens for the 10th time. And you're like, he didn't or she didn't really mean it. But everybody else looking in is like, really? And you're just like, oh, they're really nice other than, you guys just don't see their nice side. Well, your excessive dieting and wellness plans are the same way. You're treating yourself the same way. So now for the 10th, 15th, 20th, 30th, 50th time you've tackled health and wellness, you've lost the same weight over and over. If you add up all the weight that you've lost over and over, that's probably 1,000 pounds, 2,000 pounds over your lifetime. Seriously, it sounds insane, but it's like a bad relationship with oneself. So stop treating yourself poorly and that stop and start. No, it's not that bad. If you're 30 pounds overweight, it's not healthy. 30 pounds underweight is not healthy. So stop treating yourself poorly. Okay, we're going to go. Till next week, everybody. Till some other secrets get revealed. I'm waving to you. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye, Rita and Faith and everybody. Bye. You've been watching Coach Peggy Real Time, a transformation coaching docuseries where each week the cast learns strategies and tools that help improve the quality of their life. And I hope at home you're trying some of the challenges and experiments as well. If you would like to be on upcoming cast for the next season, go ahead over to coachpeggyrt.com and find out some more information and apply. If you'd also like to be a part of our groups that are not public, you can find out that information there as well. Hop on over to Coach Peggy Facebook community and please share with us there your journey and see how the cast is doing each week. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you next week.